Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to AuthorStory. I'm Alexander Lim, your host. And on this episode, I'm interviewing Steve Kardian, one of the authors of the book, The New Superpower for Women, Trust Your Intuition, Predict Dangerous Situations, and Defend Yourselves from the Unthinkable, which he co-authored with A. Clara Pistic. And for those of you following along who are interested, you can go over now to the Amazon link in the description below the video and check out or get a copy of his book. So Steve, welcome to Author Story. It's great to have you with us as our guest today.
My pleasure, Alex. Thank you for having me.
Cool. So Steve, to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your author story?
Well, I've been in law enforcement for 30 years here in Westchester County, New York. I worked my way through detective, sergeant. I was a motorcycle officer. I was a young detective at 23 years old in the Ridgefield, Connecticut Police Department. Investigated my first homicide at 23.
Wow.
I retired here. I got a waiver from the state. Went to work as a chief investigator for the New York City Department of Investigation. Did bribery, fraud, corruption, organized crime. Did the last 6 months of the Gambino crime family investigation. And I did 2 years with the U.S. Marshals as a contractor. And in addition to that, I've been teaching safety and self-defense for just about as long, about 30 years.
So I guess we can safely say then that you're pretty qualified to instruct on self-defense and all that.
Yeah, I'm also a contributor, a law enforcement analyst and a safety analyst for many of the major media, Fox and Friends, Inside Edition, CNN, HLN, Good Morning America, ABC News.
All right, cool. Got that. So if I may ask Steve, about your co-author, Clara, what's her background?
Clara is my writer. She's
you're
not
right.
so much, not so much the co-author, but she was the writer that I hired to turn my 12th grade writing style into something a little bit different. So she did a lot of the what they call polishing of my writings.
Yeah, okay, got that. Cool. Okay, so about the book, Steve, can you tell us what it's all about and who it is for?
Well, the book, it pretty much, the subtitle tells it all. It's The New Superpower for Women. It's by Simon & Schuster is my publisher, and the subtitle is Trust Your Intuition, Predict Dangerous Situations, and Defend Yourself from the Unthinkable. And that pretty much sums it up in a short sentence.
Okay, so it's directed primarily at women.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that. So what made you decide to write the book? Was there like an aha moment you realized, I should bring this out? Or was it more like a cumulative realization as time went on?
No, it's for the last 30 years, I've been teaching self-defense to women. The majority of what I do is create instructors. Over the years, I've taught college, I've taught high school. I was a professional speaker for Campus Speak for 5 years, one of the premier speaking agencies in the United States. And I traveled the country lecturing at colleges and universities on sexual assault prevention, dating violence, spring break issues, relationships. And through Defend University, what we do is I travel the country. And matter of fact, I'm just back from the Marine Corps Depot, where I created instructors there for their readiness and deployment. The Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. And I was a martial arts school in North Carolina, Philadelphia, Chicago. And I create instructors that bring my program back to their community, anti-sexual assault, anti-domestic violence, anti-kidnapping, and they empower their female loved ones with my program. Now, what we teach, what takes up a lot of the time is the anti-sexual assault, the self-defense techniques, which are reality-based. It's not your stun and run karate program. We actually put women in positions they'd find themselves in if they were being kidnapped or violated. And the most important thing that I can do for a woman is empower her with knowledge and information, because we recognize and know that self-defense is the last resort. When everything else is broken down, the good gift of intuition, your decision-making may have been compromised or skewed. So what we do is, by empowering them with the knowledge and information, what the predator is looking for, putting them in touch with their gift of intuition, teaching them about awareness, situational awareness, teaching them about the red zone for college freshmen and sophomores, all college girls, teaching them about social situations. Creating a blueprint for a plan of action is one of the most encouraging things that I can share with a woman,
Mhm.
where she actually will come up with a solution to problems so that she'll be better able to react and control her adrenal response.
Right. Okay, cool. So, Steve, for the benefit of those who might not be fully aware of this, let's start off with some statistics about how many women are victimized or assaulted every day.
Well, we see that 20% of the female population at some point in their time will be violated in some way, shape, or form. On the college campus, we see that the 20% of girls, young girls, during their college years will be met with some sort or form of unwanted contact.
Mm-hmm.
And and the incidence is much higher, and less than, according to the DOJ,
Mm-hmm.
less than 5% of the college age girls will report the incident to police.
Okay. All right. So, what makes that so? I mean, what's behind the reluctance to report?
Well, there. First of all, there's good models and there's bad college models. You have
Okay.
the Clery Act. The Clery Act. You have Title IX, that the colleges are now trying to fight back on sexual assault. Sometimes, often, and in the book I talk about it, we see, like, say, take Baylor University. There was a horrible, horrible sexual assaults, dozens from some of the sports players there. And it was hidden. And Jeffrey Sandusky in Penn State, that went on. So the colleges, sometimes the bad models, they protect the brand and they don't protect the student. It's about the almighty dollar.
Right. Okay. All right. Got that. So let's shift a little bit here, Steve. You mentioned that a criminal takes about 7 seconds to decide on a target, right?
Yes.
All right. So, it all starts in the mind. So, knowing how things could work might give insight for our listeners. What goes through a criminal's mind in those 7 seconds that makes him decide, I'm going to pick this person?
Well, there's a study that was done in 1981. It was the Greystone-Stein study, in which they put cameras on a New York City street, and they recorded over a period of time. And they took the videos to some seasoned criminals, murderers, rapists, killers, and they showed them to them. And what their findings were that these murderers, killers, these incarcerated criminals,
Right.
they all independently picked the same people as soft targets.
Okay. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they did so by watching their gait, watching their stride, watching their posture, a variety of things. And in the book, you'll see, people talk about, walk with a purpose, walk assertively, chest back, shoulder. Well, I show you through illustrations in the book exactly what they're talking about, what to do, what not to do. And, even to the point of having someone in your family or a friend record you as you walk to make sure that you are doing the things that project, that scream that you're a hard target.
Right. Okay. And what are some of the things women should realize about the way a criminal's mind works? I mean, a criminal's mind, I gather, doesn't work the way ordinary folks' mind does.
Well, there's certain things that he's going to do, and you've got to be employing awareness or situational awareness to recognize them. Number one is listen to your intuition. If somebody gives you the feeling that they're a creep, that they're up to no good,
right,
and in all likelihood they are up to no good.
Right.
Secondly, walk with a purpose. What you want to do is you want to do a split-second glance. So if you feel that you're being watched, you're being targeted, you want to put that person on notice that that he's there, and that his intentions are bad, and let him know if he messes with you, he's picking the wrong person. So that's basically, if you say he's off to your right at 3 o'clock and you just glance at about 2:30 in his direction, keep walking. And I call it keep your head on a level. So when you do that, you look and you bring your head exactly, keep your chin level, you bring it back on the same plane. And I have illustrations to show what I'm talking about. Most people, if they see someone that's intimidating, they might look down, they might look to the left, they might look away. Well, we're teaching you how to do that and how to project that you're confident, that you're not the one to mess with, And if he does, what you're doing is when you put him on notice, you take away about 70% of his game, which is the element of
Wow.
surprise.
Okay, all right. That's interesting. 70%. That's just by being assertive. It's a 70% chance that he might think, "Oh, I'll pick someone else."
Yeah, well, first of all, by presenting yourself as a hard target, that's a deterrent. By putting him on notice that you know he's there, that is another feather in your cap, if you will.
Okay, I got that. All right. So, Steve, you mentioned before that not to take anything away from the role of martial arts, self-defense gyms, and things like those, but usually when a fight takes place, that means the crap has already hit the fan, and things are serious. So, what are some of the things other than looking like a hard target that women can do to avoid getting placed in such an extreme situation in the first place?
You mean in terms of fighting back?
Well, avoiding fighting back, avoiding getting in that situation, or is looking like a hard target, it.
Well, if you recognize that you're accosted, for example, if it's a blitz, you're not going to see it coming. A blitz is something that happens that you don't see, and it takes a half second to 4 seconds to realize what's occurring, and how you come out of that will determine your survivability, escapability.
Right.
But if you are accosted, you recognize someone, and he approaches you, you want to take a step back, put both your hands up, and scream, "Back off!" That's a couple things. Number one, it lets people in the surrounding know there's a problem, and that he's the aggressor, and that you're being pursued. Now, you can never count on anybody coming to your aid, but the predator doesn't know that.
Right.
And the predator is afraid of two things: getting hurt and getting caught. And if you instill one or both of them into him,
right,
you're way ahead of the game.
Okay, got that. Okay, cool. So, what I find interesting, Steve, is that in your book you include cyber stalking. I mean, this is like it's like a meh thing, kind of like 10 years back, but cyber stalking and cyberbullying are rather widespread nowadays, and of course, women get targeted for this. Is there anything women can do nowadays to reduce the chance of being cyber stalked?
Well, stalking is a very scary thing. Back when I was talking about it on Virginia Tech about 10 years ago, we saw the numbers were 1.1 million, and today they're up to like 7.5 million stalking cases.
Okay.
And that's because of the internet. That's because of social media. That's because of smartphones. That's because that most every app that you have on your phone, including Facebook and Twitter and many of the other popular ones, they can actually track you. If you have Facebook and you go into a restaurant and they'll say, "Hey, Steve, we see you're at ABC restaurant.
Right,
would you like to rate?" So you're being followed, you're being stalked, and people that have very little knowledge have the ability to track and stalk you.
Okay, so what can a possible victim do to reduce the chance of being cyber stalked?
Well, make sure that your location services is turned off within the apps. And when you're somewhere that you really don't want to be known about, you turn off your location services. Number two, turn off your location in your photos, because if you take a photo, it's called a geotag. Geotag will give your GPS coordinates. It'll let you know where you are. Even a Fitbit, it can track where you're going and what you're doing. So you've got to do your homework. It's a little bit more time than we have here today.
Yes.
But just letting the women know that those things are possible will cause them to do the research, to take the precautions. Because I just did with Good Morning America. I just did a segment yesterday on internet exchange places. Where you're buying and selling on the internet, and we're seeing horrible things happening where people are getting robbed and people are getting killed.
Right.
So police departments are creating exchange sites, and if you don't have an exchange site to go through on the interview in GMA, I gave some tips on what to do if you're going to meet somebody in public to exchange or buy, exchange, purchase, or buy merchandise.
Right. Okay. Got that. Cool. So let's say, Steve, all this, person's taken all these precautions, removed being located in social media, or acted like a hard target. But after all this, they still get attacked or assaulted or attacked. Yeah. So what's the best thing they can do once they're already in it?
Well, we employ the tactics that self-defense is a last resort. So the
Yes.
game is on.
Yeah.
And, you talked about the martial arts earlier.
Yes.
We see the adrenal response when you get involved or you're scared or you're involved in a fight. So we see at 115 beats per minute that your fine motor skills diminish. And that's dialing your phone. That's using your keys to put it into your car door to unlock it. It's using your key to open up your house. So between 115 and 145, many of the techniques that are, say, taught in traditional martial art karate programs,
Right.
they're complex motor skills, and they break down
Right.
between 115 and 145. They work great in the dojo, and they work great in a controlled environment, but in the real world, they're not so proficient. Now, the gross motor skills, which are all the techniques that we employ, they thrive between 145 and 175 beats per minute, which is when you're engaged in battle.
Right.
So you can rely upon them where your fine motor skills and your complex motor skills are going to break down. And by creating a blueprint, a plan of action, thinking about what you're going to do under circumstances where you might be compromised, your mind, actually, if you think of it vividly enough, can create a file as if you've actually lived that event. So the control of that adrenal, the taking control of the adrenal response in that manner, like you've been there, you've done that, the dynamic, if somebody took a woman and tried to kidnap her or threw her onto the ground and straddled her hips, her heart rate's going to race, her adrenal process is going to occur, she's going to have a burst of energy, it might last 10 seconds, might last 20 seconds, but once she exhausts it, she's going to go through the adrenal dump and be completely exhausted.
Right. Okay. So strike when the adrenaline is high then. Strike violently then.
Well, take precautions, employ the blueprint, get yourself some training so that you've already been there, done that. It's not a new experience. When you're exposed to something new in a frightening way, your response is going to be much, much more exaggerated, if you will, than if you're prepared to deal with that event.
Okay, cool. Okay, got that. So blueprint and all. Okay. So, Steve, there are a lot of books out there in self-defense, particularly self-defense books targeted specifically towards women. What is it about your book that would give people reason to consider buying it instead of some other book on a similar topic?
Well, there's only one chapter on self-defense, and actually, when you buy the book, you have the opportunity to go online and obtain a free demo tape of my 10 techniques. Now, what we see in self-defense programs, martial art programs, is that they're not teaching you. They haven't had the life experience to both deal with the predator and the survivor, where I've spent over 30 years dealing with really, really bad people.
Right.
And, it's my job as an investigator. It's my job working, with the U.S. Marshals that, I befriend this person in a sense so that I can extract information from what it is they're thinking, why they do what they did, how did they select that person. And not everybody has that ability at that level, along with, the 40-something years of martial arts that I've been employed. But my women's program is not a martial art program. It's a women's specific. So if you're a world champion black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you're an advocate, the program is so detailed to women, you both start at the same level.
All right, cool. Got that. Very interesting. Okay, Steve, so let's say you've met with a woman who's interested in defending herself or minimizing the danger to herself, or a man who's interested in having a woman in his life, relative, girlfriend, whatever, know how to handle themselves in potentially, dangerous situations. And you had only enough time to tell that person one thing about how to handle a situation or how to manage or how to avoid such a situation. What would be that one thing you would tell that person and why?
Create a blueprint for a plan of action.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, for example, you're alone in your dorm, you're alone in your apartment, you're alone in your home, and you hear somebody trying to break in.
Mm-hmm.
Vividly see yourself grabbing your cell phone. Vividly see yourself running into wherever you've designated a safe room.
Mm-hmm.
Physically see yourself using a security bar to shore up the door. In every safe room, I suggest that they keep a prepaid cell phone. Some people keep a weapon, a flashlight, batteries, anything and everything you can. And so they're very elaborate to very simple. Pick up your phone and envision you. My name is Mary Smith. You want to have the police department in your home and where you work programmed into your phone because of that factor of the 115 beats where you lose your fine motor skills. Have it programmed. Vividly hear yourself saying, my name is Mary Smith. I live at 123 Main Street, Anywhere, USA. I'm near the cross street of Broad Street. Someone's trying to break into my home. Please send help. Then the police will tell you what to do thereafter. So if I only have an hour, I'm going to empower that group, that person, with knowledge and information that will keep them safe. Self-defense is always a last resort.
Right.
The preventative aspect of safety is paramount to anything else.
All right, cool. Okay, Steve, so in this last minute or so of this interview, are there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share to inspire our listeners?
Educate yourself, empower yourself. Take some time out of your day to think about what could go wrong. Create that blueprint. Get yourself some self-defense training. If you're going to carry a weapon, it doesn't matter what it is, make sure that you're practicing and proficient. The more dangerous the weapon, the more training it will need.
Right.
So, and scan. Begin to employ situational awareness. If you walk out of a building, look to the left, look to the right. If you walk into a building, look to the left, look to the right. Find your exits. You go into a movie theater. Know exactly where you are if something goes wrong. We're in an age where, believe your eyes and ears. People here in Virginia Tech, they were hearing pop, 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 and they didn't know what was really going on. In Nice, France, where that killer used a box truck to run people over.
Right.
People didn't notice the screams and hear the revving of the engine. It was supposed to be, a celebration at Bastille Day.
Yes.
In Belgium, try and avoid the Belgium bombing that we had at the airport. Try and avoid, situations where you're with large crowds. It was Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where you had the shooter. There's video surveillance. When the shooter began shooting, most of the people froze in place for seconds, and then most of them hit the ground, where they should have possibly turned around and run. If they hit the ground and that shooter came back, he would have stationary targets on the ground.
Right. Okay, cool. Very, very, very great words of advice right there. Okay, then. So in closing, then, the book is The New Superpower for Women. Trust your intuition, predict dangerous situations, and defend yourself from the unthinkable. And the author is our guest, Steve Kardian. You can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and as Steve mentioned before this interview, all over the place. So, Steve, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being an author story. It's very interesting having you here with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Alex.
Cool. So if any of you listeners out there want to know more about this topic, please feel free to go ahead and check out The New Superpower for Women, which you can do so right now by going to the Amazon link in the description below the video. And if you'd like to follow our author interviews on YouTube, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. So bye for now, everyone. I'll be back on Author Story next time with another inspiring author.